Hello everyone. So in the last video we learned about logical operators, comparison operators and conditional statements. So in this video we are going to learn about for loop and while loop. So before that, let's just figure out why we need to use loops. So if I write print my name is Arnab. So if I write this and if I execute this code, then the exact thing is going to be printed. Now if I want to print it 2 times, I can just copy this and paste it again. So it will be printed 2 times. If I want to write it 5 times, I can just copy it and paste it 5 times. Then this would be printed 5 times. But what if I want to write it 100 times? Then what will I do? Will I just keep copy and pasting this? No, right? So in that case, loops come into play. So loops are used when there is a repetition of task happening. So let's just talk about for loop for first. So the syntax of for loop, it works like this: for variable name in some range, execute the below code. Okay, so what's happening here is, for a variable name which would be in some range like 1 to 100, 2 to 50, something like that, and then a semicolon is going to come, and then an indentation, and then whatever is going to be after this indentation is going to be executed for as long as the range suffices. So how it works is, let's just take an example. Let's just print 5 numbers. So for I in range 5, print I. So if I execute this, then it's going to print 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So what this range function is doing? First let's understand that. Let me just create some comments. Okay. So if I write range 5, it's going to give me a list of numbers starting from 0 to 5 minus 1, which is 4. So it's going to be giving me a list of 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. If I write range 100, it's going to give me numbers from 0 to 99, because it's going from 0 to n minus 1. So similarly we can put a start and an end position. So if I put range 3 to 10, at that point it's going to give me the numbers between 3 and 9. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 are going to be printed. Last number is not included. It prints from 0 to n, the start point to n minus 1, end point minus 1. But what if let's just, before going further, let's just try and print this range 3 to 10. So what this should give is give me numbers between 3 to 9. That's exactly what it's doing. Now what if I want the numbers 3, 5, 7 and 9? I don't want 4, 6 and 8. So that means I want to start from 3 and take a jump of 2 at every time instead of a jump of 1. So for that I can add a comma, and then I can add what amount of jump I need to take. If I write 2, then it's going to give me 3, 5, 7, 9. If I write 3, it's going to give me 3, 6, 9. So that's how it works. So that's it about the for loops. There's something called nested for loops as well, which gets a bit complicated at first. So we'll learn more about that once we learn about lists, sets, dictionaries, etc. and also functions as well. So for now, let's just move on to while loop. So for while loop the statement is very different. So what while loop does is, the statement is while some condition, okay, and execute whatever is here, okay. So that's what the condition of, that's what the syntax of while loop is. So what this looks like is, if I want to print the same from 0 to 4, if I want to print, I have to write I equals 0, then while I less than 5, okay, then the semicolon, and then print I, and I is equal to I plus 1. So it's going to be printing the same thing as the for loop. So let me just put some distinction between both these things. So let me just write the same thing for loop as well. For I in range 5, print 5, print I. Wait a second. Okay, I forgot to write in. Yeah. So let me just distinguish between these two loops. Let me just start by the for loop first. So if I'm writing for I in range 5 and then print I, so the range function is giving me a list of numbers between 0 to 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's what the range 5 function is giving me. So if I write for I in range 5, then I variable has, when the loop is running for the first time, the I variable has the value of 0 in it. So if I write print I, then the word, then the number 0 is being printed. Then after that, a condition is being checked. If I is less than 5, if I is, okay, let me just write the less than sign, is less than 5, this condition is being checked at the back end. We don't have to write this condition for the for loop. So if this condition is being satisfied, then the loop is going back up over here. The range function is moving one step ahead, and the I value is becoming from 0 to 1. So it's becoming print 1 again, and after that again a condition is being checked whether I is less than 5 or not, and the I value is going to be incremented until I becomes less than 5. Why less than 5? Because we have put the range function, in the range function we have put the value as 5, the extreme value as 5, we have put that. If we had put 10, then it would have gone obviously from 0 to 9 as I've explained earlier. Okay, so let me just put it 5. Okay, now coming to while loop. For while loop the syntax is different, as you can see already. For while loop we don't have to, like in for loop we had to initialize the I value, we didn't have to initialize the I value, right? But for while loop we have to initialize it with some value. For instance, I have initialized it with 0, and then the condition which I talked about here, that if I less than 5, this condition is going to be checked here on the back end. We don't have to write that. We have to write that condition for the while loop, but not for the for loop. So this condition is being checked. While this condition is being checked, while this condition is being fulfilled, the I value is going to be printed, and we have to increment this as well, because in the range function what happens is it gets incremented whenever we check it. So what I mean to say is, if I write if it's once it's checking I less than 5, then it says yes, I value is 0 right now, it is less than 5, so we can increment this for 1 value, 2 value, whatever we have put over here. Okay, so but that happens on the back end on its own. But for the while loop we have to check, we have to put a check as well as the increment, so that we have to do on our own. Okay, so when I write I equals 0, then I check while I is less than 5. obviously I is less than 5 because I is equal to 0 right now. Then it's going to print I, which is 0. Then I is equal to I plus 1. So that means that I becomes 1. The value of I is going to become 1. So after that it's going to go back to this condition. So whatever this condition is, it's I less than 5. So it's going to check that I is equal to 1 right now. So yes, it is less than 5. It's going to print again, and this is going to happen until I becomes 5. Then it will see, oh, the I is equal to 5. So 5 is not less than 5. So it's going to print. It's going to be printing up till 4 only. But if I write I less than equal to 5 and then I run this, then it's going to print 0 to 5, both inclusive. Okay, so now that's done. Let's learn about two more things before we wrap up this video. Let's learn about the continue and the break, these two statements. So if I write for I in range, let's take 20, okay, and then print I. Okay, so it's going to give me numbers between 0 to 19. Okay, now what this continue statement does, let me just write it and after that I'll explain it. Okay, if I equal 5, then continue. If I, or instead of that I can just write if I mod 2 equal 0. Let's do this. Okay, so if I did this, as I can see, I'm printing from I in range 20 and then I'm putting this condition over here and then I'm writing continue and then I'm printing I. So let's just go into the depth of what it actually is. Let me just comment it out for a second. Oh, sorry, it's giving me an indentation error now. So let's just do this. Let me just, okay. Yes, so if I'm writing this, so it's giving me numbers from 0 to 19. But now if I put this condition, so it's checking whether I mod 2 equal 0. Now what I mod 2 is doing, we learned about modulus operators in the previous video. Modulus operators are the ones which provide the remainder of a division. So if I mod 2 equal 0, that means it's an even number, right? So if it's an even number, then the remainder is obviously going to be 0. So right, like 4 mod 2 equal 0 is going to be equal 0, right? Similarly, we are checking here for even numbers. So if it's an even number, like if I is coming to 2, let me just run it. Okay, so if I is coming to 2, so 2 mod 2 equal 0, then it's going to go inside the if condition and then the continue statement is going to be applied. Now what continue is doing, it's saying that ignore everything what is written below in the for loop, etc., whatever it's written over here, and then move increment the I value for whatever range we have given, for whatever step we have given. If we have given, if it's going from 0 to 20, if we have given 2, it's going to be incremented to 2 values. If we have given to 3, it's going to be incremented by 3 values. It's just saying that just ignore the current value of I and just move ahead. That's what the continue statement is doing. So let me just move this. Okay, so that's why 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17 and 19 are being printed, because let's say it's going to 1, I have 1 mod 2 is not equal to 0, so it's not going to come inside this if statement and the I value is going to be printed. When it's going to come to 2, then it's going to see that I mod 2 equal 0, because 2 mod 2 is equal 0. Then it's going to come inside the if statement and the continue statement is going to be executed. So what continue statement is going to do, it's going to move the value to 3, move the value of I to 3, because we have given a step of 1. We have not given any step, the default value is 1. Okay, so the I value is going to go to 3, and then again it's going to be printed. So what it's doing is basically the code is just printing all the odd numbers between a range of 0 to 20. Okay, so that was it for continue statement. Now if we see for break statement, so if I write 0 to 20 again, and instead of this, let me just do if I equal let's say 10, and then break. Okay, so earlier without all this condition, if we had just written print I, then only 0 to 19 all the numbers would be printed. If we had written continue statement, continue, let's just put the previous condition only. If we had if I mod 2 equal 0, continue, with this all the odd numbers are being printed. Now if I just do this, instead of continue, if I write break, then what's going to happen, the first time it encounters an even value, because I mod 2 equal 0 is going to mean it's an even value. So at that point it's just going to exit out of the loop altogether. So if I execute this, it's not going to be printing anything. Okay, now why it's not printing anything? It should print 1, right? But it won't print 1 because the first number is going to be 0 as well, right? It's starting from 0 to 20. That's why it's not printing anything. If I had written I equal 5, I equal let's say 10, then it would print from 0 to 9, because when the value of I becomes 10, it's going to move out of the loop. The basic distinction between break and continue statement is that the break statement exits out of the loop whenever the break statement is executed, and the continue statement just moves one condition further whenever the continue statement is executed. That's the basic difference between them. So that was it for this video. In the next video we'll learn about list, dictionaries and sets, and after that we'll learn about nested for loops and functions as well. Okay, so that was it. Thank you for watching.